Let me have you guys turn on your cameras. Good morning, everybody. Okay, I need somebody when it's 11:25 to for somebody to let me know so that I'm keeping track of the time. Yesterday I got in a little bit of problem because I kept you guys behind with the other teacher. Don't want that to happen again. So, 11:25. Okay. Okay, guys. So, what we are doing today is that we're gonna work on the problems. I had asked you guys to work on writing the problems, leaving some space so that we can go ahead and work directly with the problems. But before I go ahead and do that, what I would like to do is for us to do a quick little revision of what we did yesterday. So let me go to my correct slide. Today is math lesson 2. Okay. Okay, so our math lesson for today, we're talking about angles of elevation and depression. And then what I would like for us to do is for us to just do a quick revision of what we were talking about yesterday. So yesterday we mentioned angles of elevation and angles of depression. And we always start from our horizontal line, right? And I apologize for the background noise. I am by myself and my son is making a disaster here and I have to cope with it. Alright, so sorry if you hear a lot of noise in the background. So you guys, we are talking about the horizontal line, and if you can take a look at Johnson right here, Johnson has a direct line of sight, which is this broken line, and we always refer to that as the horizontal line, right? Now, if Johnson were to go ahead and look down, then he now has created a line of sight. He could go ahead and look at the boat, right? And he has created a line of sight. And because he has moved down, he has now created an angle of depression, right? And the angle of depression changes depending on how low I look at something. So if I were to keep on moving, if I were to move, let's say he wants to look at something that is over here, then the angle of depression decreases because he didn't look too much down. Now if he is going to look at here at the bottom of where his castle is, then he has created a larger angle of depression, right? So depending on how he is looking, then that affects how much of an angle of depression is created, right? So, and yes, I'm sorry, I didn't realize his little head like comes off when I go too low. So, this is in the link, guys. You can go ahead and you can click on the PowerPoint. I have this link there, and then you can go around and then you can play around with it if you would like. Right? Now, let's say that Johnson now wants to look at the plane. He wants to look up now and he is looking at the plane in the sky. I am going to take from my original line of sight, my horizontal, and then now I am looking at the plane, and that creates an angle of elevation, right? And let's say that I am looking straight and I just look a little bit up. That automatically says that my angle of depression is not going to be that big. And as I move up towards something and as I look more up, then the angle of elevation increases. As I move my line of sight more up, then the angle increases. All right? Anybody has any questions? This is what we basically talked about yesterday. When I look up, I create an angle of elevation, and when I look down, I create an angle of depression. All right? Anybody has any questions? This is what we talked about and what we identified yesterday, right? Those of you that were not here yesterday, the recording is in Google Classroom, and you guys are free to go ahead and view the recording. And then I am always there. You need questions to be answered, feel free to message me, right? So this is the first, well, this is what we talked about yesterday, right? So a little review for us to do. Now what we want to concentrate on today is how to solve word problems. And I had mentioned yesterday that whenever they give you a word problem, you need to be able to draw your diagram. You need to represent what the question is saying as an illustration. So first I would have to draw a sketch of the situation. Then I would mark in the given angle. After I have created my diagram, am I looking at an angle of elevation or am I looking at an angle of depression? And finally, I use trigonometry, and I use the trig ratios, sine, cosine, tangent, arcsine, arccos, arctan, to determine the length of a missing side or of a missing angle. Right? So those are the three basic steps that we would like to cover when it comes to solving a problem. So here I have another example. Let's look at this one. When you have a word problem that is given to you, your illustrations need to represent what the question is saying. Right? So if the question is talking about somebody that is at the top of a tower, you need to be able to show the person at the top of the tower, right? And if you are looking from there, so it's saying that this person looked up or this person looked down, then this is the origin. This is where your angle needs to start, right? So if they say, okay, this person looked down at another person on the ground, then you have created an angle here. But, alright, so I create an angle of depression. Alright, because this is where the person is, and I'm looking at the blue one right now. This is where the person is, and I look down at something. And this is what my diagram should look like. Now, if they tell you the other way around, and they say that the person on the ground, this little man right here, the person on the ground looked up at the person at the top of the tower, I need to draw that and represent that. And because I am looking up, I have created an angle of elevation. So I need to be very careful. I could go ahead and I could represent my questions like this. Alright, where I have the tower, the first man, the second man, and then I create my line, my horizontal line, my angle of elevation or my angle of depression. Or I could just go ahead and directly create a triangle that shows those things. But what we will be doing today and what I will be showing you guys to do is that we will be creating a diagram like this, and from this we will take out our triangle. Alright? So that is what we are doing today. So as I had mentioned, this is in Google Classroom. This is in the PowerPoint. If you want to go back and you want to play around with it, you guys are free to do so. So how do we illustrate something? How do we illustrate a word problem, right? This first example is two poles on horizontal ground are 60 meters apart. The shorter pole is 3 meters high. The angle of depression of the top of the shorter pole from the top of the longer pole is 20 degrees. Sketch a diagram to represent the situation. And this talked a lot, and it said a lot of poles and depression and top and bottom, and you have to be able to understand what it is saying. I'm going to read it again. Two poles on horizontal ground are 60 meters apart. The shorter pole is 3 meters high. The angle of depression of the top of the shorter pole from the top of the longer pole is 20 degrees. And that sentence has the information that we want. That is the important sentence. Sketch a diagram to represent the situation. So I have on the side the short pole and I have the longer pole. It says that both of them are standing on horizontal ground, meaning that both of them are parallel to each other. Both of them are standing on the same thing. You have one pole being longer than the other one, and the question only gives you that they are 60 meters apart and that the shorter pole is 3 meters high. That is what it is saying. Alright? Now, the important sentence. The angle of depression of the top of the shorter pole from the top of the longer pole is 20 degrees. I need to make an angle of depression in this diagram. So now when I do that, I am connecting the longer pole and the shorter pole. Now why am I doing that? Because it says an angle of depression. That means that I am looking down at something. So where am I? I am on the taller one, right? Because if I'm on the shorter one and I look down, of course I'm not going to look at the top of the other one. I'm going to look at the bottom of the other one. So I am on top of the longer pole and I am looking down at the shorter pole so that I can create an angle of depression. So now when I connect these two, now I have this diagram. And where is my angle of depression? And this is very important. Your angle of depression, and I know that most of you would have put the angle right here. The angle does not belong there. The angle is created from my original site where I am originally looking down. So from me looking straight and then me looking down, that is where I create the angle. That is where the angle is. And if you are looking at this diagram very carefully, the angle is outside, and I need to be able to use that exterior angle to make an interior angle. So now, did everybody understand this diagram? Because right now we're going to work with the word problems of our worksheet, and we want to be able to do that without problems. Right? Did everybody understand that? Yes? Good. You need your notebooks, you need your questions, you need your pencil or your pen, and you need calculator. And we need those things so that we can work effectively right now. Alright? We are going to see how much we can do in the next 25 minutes. Right? We have 7 questions that we need to complete. And we will see if we can finish those 7 questions. Right? So, let's see. Let me stop sharing here. I'm joining from here. And I will share my screen. Okay. Option share screen. Start sharing. Okay. Okay, so this is the first question. Okay, you guys won't be able to see the question because the thing is blocking it. So let me